This week on the Pitching Well, my special guest, Cass Almendral of Wall Street Solutions Group. All that and more. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Pitching Well. My special guest this week is Cass Almendral. He is with Wall Street Solutions Group. This is an investor relations firm, and really, I guess you're more of a connector. You connect small cap, micro cap, other small companies with investors. How would you describe your practice?
That's exactly it, TJ. I worked at a hedge fund a while back, and I developed this investor relations business because there was a need for this small and micro cap public companies to reach out to hedge fund investors, which are thought leaders and influencers in the investment community. And in the last few years I've been doing investor relations, I've connected these small public companies with hedge fund managers and asset managers and high net worth individuals and brokerage firms.
Mm-hmm. And what is your primary method of doing it? A lot of people here in New York City, the IR world, it's still about sending out press releases, setting up one-on-one meetings, road shows. Do you do all the traditional things? What else do you do that's different?
Well, I've been using a lot of social media. My background is I set up a website a few years ago in the boom of the .com industry called castworld.com, and I developed a big investor database for networking for different job opportunities and social events in New York. And I've developed an expertise in social media and using this social marketing method of getting investors to meet with investor relations clients.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you draw the line? I mean, we've seen, certainly this week the whole world has seen what happens when you blur the purely social private with public function with Anthony Weiner. Not suggesting you're doing that with any small cap companies, but what is that fine line between parties, introduction meetings, things that are business oriented versus things that are purely social? Where do you define that line?
Well, I think there's a very specific line between doing something appropriate and inappropriate online. So I think that's when people get caught, like Anthony Weiner, with that picture online. I personally would never put a naked picture of myself online because, maybe on a beach but not in some kind of private room where it's completely
Although we should
embarrassing.
note Playboy is a small cap company these days, so you never know.
That's true. But these are accepted publications that somebody in a position of government official should really stay away from. So that's a clear indiscretion that I'd say most people would never do.
Mm. So what are the types of small cap companies you work with right now? And then how do they filter through your system, whether it's through the social media world, through traditional introductions, through you getting them to conferences?
Really, they come in always in those ways through a personal introduction through a hedge fund manager or through a conference or online. Somebody, because I have an email list of 7,500 investors, any one of them could send me an email and say, hey, I think you should take a look at this company. It's undervalued because it's just too small for people to pay attention to, but they in particular have done the analysis and believe it's a valuable asset that's undervalued, and they bring them to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much of your value to companies when they hire you is based on personal relationships with investors where you can essentially not guarantee, but increase the likelihoods of them getting a face-to-face meeting? And how much is it simply knowledge of the industry, knowledge of the players, combined with knowledge of social media that gets results?
I'd say it's 80% personal relationships, people who know me. I may not know them, but because I send a weekly email to the investor community. They know me, and I may be familiar with them, or they may have just come through a friend on the email list. But them knowing who I am and what I do is really how they attend the meetings and want to reach out to companies that I represent.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the companies you represent is in the clean energy space. Can you tell us about that?
That's correct. Clenergen is an innovative clean energy company that is based in India. And what they do is they use a hybrid of bamboo as feedstock to power diesel electrical energy plants. So they turn bamboo into as feedstock to just power these.
Feedstock, what does that mean? It's the
basically
fertilizer?
they grow bamboo that grows about 18 feet a year, and instead of being hollow, it's a special hybrid bamboo that's totally solid, so there's a lot of mass, and then they burn it to generate steam to generate electricity.
Okay.
So they basically go to communities that are outside the grid and give them this occupation of being farmers for the bamboo, and process the bamboo, and then use the bamboo to as the energy to burn to generate electricity in power plants.
Now, how do you communicate a story like that to the investment community? Because you hear clean and people get excited, because anything that's green energy, people get very excited. But then you hear burning, and then people think, uh-oh, coal, CO2 problems. How do you communicate these issues to people?
Well, it's when the bamboo grows, it absorbs carbon dioxide, and so it kind of
unlike just digging up coal, which isn't doing anything any good.
Exactly. So when you burn it, it burns the same amount of carbon dioxide that it absorbed when it was growing. So there's a zero sum of carbon dioxide put into the environment.
Okay, so
that's why it's clean.
Now, is this really scalable? The problem, so many of our investors are familiar with it, with anything dealing with alternative energy sources, is they're sort of nice, cute, almost like they're a little puppy, but that's not really what you can hook up to the wagon and take the whole family across the country with. A lot of these are so small and narrow, they don't add up to a significant percentage of the energy grid. What would this add up to if it could get fully funded or fully developed?
Well, it would add up to the solution to the world's energy problems, because it creates jobs, it's agricultural, it's green.
Would it be 10% of energy needs? I mean, you're not suggesting 100% of the world's energy needs.
No, it could generate, the cost of generating electricity is about a fraction, maybe a half to a third of what it would cost to burn oil and generate that electricity. So it's very efficient. There's a lot of wasted land that the bamboo grows on that is actually, the government actually gives. For example, in the Philippines, where they're starting these plants, that they have thousands of acres of wasted land that has 50-year-old coconut trees that you can't eat the coconuts, they're just too old. So they're being given this land to plant the bamboo in order to give electricity to that area.
And is it cost effective yet, or does it still need? Is it like ethanol here in the United States, where unless the government's giving big subsidies, it really doesn't make sense economically as a form of energy? Where is it on the economics?
Oh, it's extremely cost effective. It is a fraction of the cost, and it gives jobs to the community. It develops an ecosystem that's very sustainable and green. So they generate electricity, they generate cash, they pay the indigenous population, they give them health care, they start bank accounts.
More about that in just a moment. But for those of you watching us on some of the YouTube sites, iTunes, places like that, we have to cut off now because they give a 10-minute limit. If you want to watch the entire program, be sure to go to PitchingWell.com and you can watch the rest of this program. I'm TJ Walker. We'll be back in a moment.